Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 9x90. Today we have a very special guest. He is a total icon in the Palm Beach real estate arena. He started his career at just 21 years old, and since then he has spent 5 decades mastering the industry. This longevity and commitment reflect deep expertise and a rare ability to adapt to market cycles across decades. Roger holds not only a degree in business and an MBA, but he also has a JD, making him a Jedi mastermind when it comes to negotiations, identifying real estate opportunities, and structuring incredible deals. He served as an adjunct professor at my alma mater, Palm Beach Atlantic University, and his academic background gives him uniquely analytical and strategic edge in real estate negotiations, as I already mentioned, but also contract law and investment advisory. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, William. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and thank you so much for having me on this wonderful podcast. We're all familiar with it, and we're very excited.
So you purchased your first property at the age of 21. That's unheard of. Like today you have a bunch of those like software tech kids doing it, but 50 years ago, that was unheard of.
Well, my father advised me and assisted me. He was a real estate investor, and he said that paying interest was bad, collecting rent was good.
Oh, okay. So you're second generation.
Yes.
I did not realize that. Okay, I'm fifth generation.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I have to say, being able to call your parents for advice on real estate moves, it's a total game changer.
Well, I tried to work with students, especially from Palm Beach Atlantic University, to give them a little bit of an edge or a little bit of a guidance, because sometimes at the early age, you don't really have the confidence and understanding. But the earlier you invest in real estate, the better it is for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you right now, with the market's downturn in certain asset classes, people who have only been in for like 3 to 5 years were able to just come in as the white knight because they had no idea what they were doing. They've been in such a short amount of time. It definitely is one of those things where the longer you're in, the better you get.
Absolutely. And I have purchased properties which I sold for twice what I paid for them, or 3 times what I paid for them, or 4 times what I paid for them. But if I still own them now, it would be 25 times what I paid for them. So I tell the students, please resist the urge to sell your income producing real estate. Just keep raising the rent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so with degrees in business, accounting, law, how have these academic achievements shaped and shifted your approach to real estate transactions and client relationships over the years?
Well, the way that worked was kind of sequential. I bought my first property when I was my second year in law school with the help of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I operated and lived in one of the units, and I was transitioning between Boston, Massachusetts, and Portland, Maine. I had 4 days in Boston at my law school, 3 days in Maine. And I evolved from there because I was accepted into the master's program at the University of Miami Law School to specialize in tax. So I took that opportunity and I left the income property in Maine. However, I was able to find a dear friend who had been my girlfriend in high school and who moved in there, managed the property, and we made a business arrangement and a long-term friendship.
One of my older cousins did his start the same way with his portfolio. He bought a triplex, lived in one unit, renovated the other 2, and then moved out. It's a great way to start. It really is. So, yeah.
I think that when you buy your first property, it's got a roof, it's got 4 walls, it's got electric, plumbing. It doesn't matter so much except if you have up to 4 units, you still have the same financing available to you and live in one of the units, but you have either 1, 2, or 3 other families to help you pay the bills.
Yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant way to get started with the quadplexes, especially in the US. I feel like that's a major advantage that we have that not enough Americans take. They don't take enough advantage of it, whereas in other countries, they would die if they had that.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm fortunate because with my business and accounting background, I realize how important my CPA is and the advice on tax. So I subscribe to using the correct professionals to assist you and assemble a team that you can grow with and have a friendly business professional relationship.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best teams are built with the best people. You hit the nail on the head with that one. I've seen people where they're like, I don't want to outsource anything. It's like, then you're never going to win because it's a soccer game. Real estate's a soccer game. You need a soccer team, maybe even a football team. You're not going to win with a one-person team. It's not golf. But
yeah. I think also with using your soccer analogy, it's important to have a good team captain on the soccer team. And the team captain sometimes isn't you. You have to select amongst your group of professionals, like your cabinet officials.
The managing partner at the real estate fund that I'm at, I call him Coach. I'm like, okay, excellent. Coach, thanks, Coach. He finds it funny, but yeah, I think it definitely. I could not agree with that more. You definitely need someone who has the coach mentality, who knows how to take all-star players, make them their best, knows how to build an all-star team. Because when you're dealing with these asset classes, execution and operations are they're what differentiates a building that's going to be worthless in a few years and a building that's going to double, triple, quadruple its multiple, the equity multiple.
Exactly. If you have good inspectors and subcontractors or general contractors assist you in that decision making, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you served as the director of the Century 21 University of Learning for over a decade.
Yes.
What were some of the key initiatives that you led, and how did they impact agent development in South Florida? Because I've been told you're like the godfather of South Florida real estate.
Thank you. I was fortunate because with the Century 21 University of Learning, we handled the Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County, South Florida Metroplex. Mm-hmm. We had approximately 5 or so classrooms in each county. We had instructors, professionals, licensed instructors, helping with the students, preparing them for the state exam, either for mortgage brokerage or real estate brokerage. In addition to that, I was fortunate because I was selected to do a 5 classroom, satellite classroom tour every year, twice in the state of Florida. I'd go to Jacksonville, I'd go to Naples, I'd go to these other markets, because in order to retain your license in Florida, in the first licensure period, you have a mandatory continuing education extensive course. Mm-hmm. And I was able to perform that, and I got to meet and work with a lot of real estate agents and become aware of the different cultures in the large state of Maine.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you spread across the entire East Coast, or would you say that you're mainly operating in Maine and Florida?
Well, I like Maine because it was my heritage, obviously, and my father's choice of home, but it wasn't my goal for long-term lifestyle. I felt even at the young age of 18 that the future wasn't as strong in the state of Maine as it would be for me in South Florida. I had been on one business trip with my dad when I was 15 years old to Miami Beach in the wintertime. and I got the idea rather quickly. So I sent one application, University of Miami, and fortunately they accepted me.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's funny. I when I was living in Europe, I lived there for 5.5 years. When I came back to New Jersey in January, it was freezing cold. And I remember
Wow.
walking just like 2 blocks in the freezing cold. It's like below zero temperatures. And I get to my father's office and I was like, I love you, but I'm moving to California. Like, this is so much too cold for me.
Well, I had a little confusing experience in Germany. I was a cast member of a German reality TV show, and I traveled there for some promotional events. And when I debarked the plane and I was in the parking area, I realized that my Italian loafer shoes didn't go well with the German snow bank. And I was realizing my feet were kind of cold.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I have a really funny shoe story about Italian shoes. You know, in Italy, they worship their shoes. They worship them. It was raining one time when I was in the library, and I lost track of time, books, you know, love for books. And I go to check out with the books and leave, and the Italian woman running the library, she's like, "Do you want a bag for your shoes?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, It's flooding in the parking lot. You're going to ruin your shoes if you wear them outside." And I was like, "So you'd rather I walk outside barefoot in November in the freezing cold rain than ruin my leather shoes?" And she was like, "Yes, this is the Italian way. Like, protect your shoes above all else." It's like, none of my friends in America would believe this story.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Especially, I noticed that the Italian shoes are getting a little bit more expensive these days.
Oh my gosh, I know. You have to go during their sales in like January or August. Otherwise, forget it. Yeah. But I mean, the quality is incredible. The quality is absolutely incredible. The way they form the shoes, they study the human architecture so that they're giving you shoes that actually are comfortable but look stunning. Like in the US, they just don't invest that much neurological energy into designing shoes like that. But anyways, off on our fashion tangent.
I understand. They're
So,
interesting people. I met Manolo Blahnik one time, and we're chatting before the show, and he's a very charming, very interesting guy, kind of a big guy. And he said, "I love your hat." I said, "Oh, wow, thank you, man."
yeah. Oh, funny. I remember walking around Clematis Street probably a decade ago, and you were still wearing that hat. And someone pointed out, they were like, "That's the godfather of real estate in South Florida." Because like you've become famous for the hat, and you're like sitting outside of a Starbucks or something. But they said it with like so much reverence, like, "Oh, you can always see him because he's always wearing a hat like this." What made you decide to make that your signature?
Well, I didn't exactly make it my signature for promotional reasons. It kind of, I confess, went along with my loss of hair on the top of my head. You know, sometimes male pattern baldness makes a scientist out of you.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought it was like an iconic fashion like thing that this is, you know, like Taylor Swift has her red lipstick and you have your hat.
Well, I don't know why other people don't wear hats more since it's sunny in Florida.
Oh my gosh, I know. I know. The skin cancer down here, the eye cancer, yeah, it's crazy. It's very hot.
We just lost one of our really exciting, iconic characters, Jimmy Buffett, to skin cancer.
Oh my gosh. That's a shame.
Yeah, and he was well known as a troubadour of the beach and the lifestyle of South Florida. And it was just so ironic and painful for us to lose that great guy.
Yeah. It's crazy how aggressively skin cancer spreads. That's something that I found wild. So back to real estate. As a leader in we're gonna get distracted a lot. I'm sorry, you guys. As a leader in organizations like Kiwanis International and American Mensa, how has your community engagement complemented your professional endeavors?
Well, I think that if you let people get to know you a little bit better, they find the ones that relate to you and are willing to trust you. That's very important. I can't deal with everybody, and I don't pursue everybody as a prospective client. But the people that are a little attracted to me, people that I sort of vibe with a little bit more, then we can build a relationship, and the relationship becomes business as well.
Someone was asking me the other day how I pick investors for our real estate fund. It was like, if I cannot sit with them for dinner once a month and enjoy the dinner, I don't want to take their money. It's not enough to know and trust someone. You have to like them as well.
Well, I've found that there are some people that have approach to life, or priorities in life, or morals in life that don't align with mine. And it's hard for me to deal with them and them to deal with me. So it's really okay for us to go our separate ways and not do business together.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I think a lot of time is wasted when young people feel like they need to get along with everyone. It's like, you don't. You just need to find the good people, focus on good people, get along and do business with those good people. Not everyone's going to be moral, have the same ethics as you, have the same investment thesis. You only need to find a few good people in order to be successful and happy.
Well, one of the reasons that attracted me more closely with the Palm Beach Atlantic University, I've always been aware of the university. I knew the founder, Jess Moody. He was a wonderful, charismatic gentleman with a far-reaching vision. But recently I met Brian Stroud, who is the dean of our Rinker School of Business. I like to refer to it specifically as the AACSB accredited Rinker School of Business, which now puts us in the top 6% of business schools in the nation. So we are now led by Brian Stroud. I'm on his advisory board, and I sat with him and had lunch and we talked, and he asked me to join his advisory board. He is a PhD. His wife is a PhD. They're lifelong educators. They're family people. They have 4 children, all achieving children. And I thought Palm Beach Atlantic is faith-based, family values, American free enterprise. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a great school. There were definitely some underlying fundamentals that made it just a great place to get your bachelor's degree. You could feel safe on campus at all times. You didn't have a lot of the concerns that people, especially young females, would have at other campuses. You just didn't have them at PBA. Like, we were in such a bubble, and people were really focused on their career goals, on bettering themselves, on building out their networks, but they were also focused on health, which I found very unique. My brother would joke, because he went to school in northern Florida at Southeastern University. He would say, when we go to my sister's school, everyone, you can tell, they study, they go to the beach, they work out, they eat healthy. When you go to my school campus, it looks like the girls bake pies all day and then eat them. Oh. And yeah, I didn't realize how rare it was to meet such health conscious, intelligent young people and be in that type of bubble until I graduated and moved to Italy, and it was a completely different value system.
Well, another thing that's good about this university environment is the role modeling of the professors and the leadership. We have a wonderful president, Deborah Schwinn. During the COVID issue worldwide, she was able to safely keep the campus open and safe for everybody. So they had face-to-face teacher interaction. And if anybody asked, she said, well, I am a medical doctor. Yeah. So, although some people were scared and trepidatious, she was very strong in leadership and very strong in protecting our student body while educating them.
Yeah, we also have PBA has one of the best pre-pharmaceutical programs.
Yes.
I earned my bachelor's degree in medicinal and biological chemistry at PBA. Yeah, and people are like, "What is that degree?" And I was like, "It's pre-pharmacy, basically." But it was an amazing experience. Now,
Well, we're emphasizing now in our School of Business real estate investment, because we are now known as the Wall Street South region, and we have tremendous real estate development in South Florida. If you just Google a few of those clips from YouTube, you'll notice that on Biscayne Boulevard in Miami, at around 4th Street, they're building the Waldorf Astoria project, 100 stories tall.
I know it's wild, and people keep saying the Miami bubble is going to burst, South Florida is going to burst, and it keeps building. It keeps building, especially because we have the beauty of the ocean. We now have our emerging tech. You have a lot of the venture capitalists fled Silicon Valley to come here. I think we're at the start of a huge growth spurt, becoming the next New York City.
Well, we had people moving here in the last 5 years that average folks didn't know about. Ken Griffin, for example, leading the Citadel Fund, one of the biggest, if not the biggest fund for investment. He has made Miami his capital. He has purchased 4 contiguous lots on the ocean in Palm Beach, and he's building a huge home there for his mother across from the Mar-a-Lago Resort.
Sorry, the dog was barking. So you already touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to go a little bit more into it. What insights do you share with students who are aspiring to enter the real estate industry? Like, you're putting a real estate education program into PBA?
Yes, we're working with the aegis of the dean of the School of Business, the Marshall Rinker Senior School of Business, and the intention is to augment the degree path that leads to a career path. I suggest to the students that your degree path has prepared you for your career. Enter your career, advance yourself in your career, use the opportunities to accept promotions and rewards of your career. But at 5:30, you can turn it off, have time for friends, family, children, lifestyle, hobbies, maybe a vacation or two. But in addition to that, investing in a passive way in appropriate real estate appreciating assets, that you settle the debt as quickly as possible, so you have that cash flow income as well as the appreciation, and keep adding to it in an appropriate manner.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that that's what you're teaching now, because I feel like when I was in college 15 years ago, more or less, it was get a degree, but then your degree may or may not equip you for what you're going to be doing in the real world. And so it kind of, you saw this weird transition over the past decade where a lot fewer people were getting degrees because they no longer gave them the knowledge and experience that they needed for their career. And now you're bringing it back to, guys, what's the point of a degree? To help you with your career.
Yeah, we're trying to coordinate the degree path with the career path so that the students are enriched by the foundation, and they utilize that to find self-actualization and reward of their career.
You've segueing a little bit, you're restructuring the way that degrees are done so it's a clear win-win for students that are pursuing a real estate career by pursuing their degree at PBA. Now, you also look for win-win opportunities in the transactions that you do.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that philosophy? I know my family does the same thing. We say if it's not a win-win, we're walking. because there are enough win-wins out there. Now, could you elaborate on how you bring this to your own business?
Well, it's getting to know the people you work with a little bit. And I've been very fortunate because I've spent my career in South Florida. I lived 8 years in Coconut Grove. I have a degree from University of Miami undergrad, as well as a master's of law from the law school. So I'm very, very familiar with the entire South Florida area. So I can give people suggestions based on my experience that help them to make better decisions about what they buy, where they buy it, where they live, how they operate their lifestyle in South Florida. This way, I can match them better with people that have properties for sale that will give them a high return on their investment, but have less issues, less contention between the two parties carrying out the transaction. I think that helps a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My mother's a real estate broker, and sometimes she'll get these clients. She's like, you will not believe what this person is asking me. I'm like, dismiss them if they're asking you to do all this work and no commissions because you got commissions on the last 2 properties you bought and sold for them. Like, look for people who understand that it's a collaborative win-win environment.
I also use another kind of a approach. For example, I have heard, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but I have heard that people want to buy for less money than the ask. And I've heard that people want to ask more than the market for their property. And if either one of those has that intention, I would say that's fine. I certainly can represent you as diligently as possible. Please tell me why you want to pay less. So, well, I just want to pay less because it's less money. I said, that's not going to be a good example of how to negotiate with the seller. Maybe we can have a little bit different reason. And if your reason is more logical, then the seller or the buyer, either one, is more likely to work with you. And that way you could possibly have another transaction and another one in the future.
Yeah. I could tell you, I agree with that completely. I've seen it where people are trying to cheat different players within the real estate space. And within 5 years, they can't do deals with anyone. No one wants to touch them. The reputation has spread and they're effectively locked out. And they were so focused on getting an extra few dollars here and there that they burned every single bridge until there were no bridges left.
Well, I'm very lucky because I can travel from the Keys up to the northern reaches of the South Florida Metroplex. And I don't have to cross the street when I see anybody coming because I was mean to them or did something that they didn't trust in a real estate deal. I can even sit outside of Starbucks and people can say hi and say, I did working projects with him and he was a good guy.
Yeah, and that's a huge advantage to have that in this space. So having witnessed a number of shifts in the real estate market over your more than 50-year career, how have you adapted to changes and what advice do you have for agents navigating today's market?
Well, one of the difficult things about entering real estate as a profession for sales representation, sales associate, it doesn't happen quickly. It's a project that requires utilizing your circle of influence, meeting the people in your immediate family, immediate friendship group, immediate contact group, and asking for their help. But it's not a job where you get a paycheck the first week. You have to be able to withstand a lengthy period of time where you're adjusting to commissions and the timing of the commissions. So it's okay if you have another career, if you have another job, if you have other things going, and you can gently move into it. We have students that want to jump off the deep end because they hear that South Florida market has $50 million houses, and they figure the commission before they meet the owner of the house.
This is not in the list of questions, so if you want to skip it, we can. But just a question that popped into my mind is, you have this amazing network, you have all this knowledge and experience. Why have you never started a real estate fund?
Well, the reason I haven't started a fund is because it's work. It's another job. It's like when I tell the students to operate their career, advance their career, but establish the investments in real estate in a more passive nature. Some students have said, why don't you operate as Airbnb because you make more money? And I said, well, Airbnb is another job. It's a real extensive full-time job. And so is operating a fund, and so is qualifying the people, so is qualifying the professionals who help you distribute the money. It's serious. And although people do it, and I salute them, and I often recommend to some of my investors that they speak to people that operate REITs, for example, that I don't want to be everything to everybody. I don't want to do everybody's job, because I think I'm better if I focus on the job that I like and I can do is better.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Some people look at the work I do for our fund and they're like, I would hate doing that, but it's something that I find fun. So it's, everyone has their own thing that they enjoy, I guess.
Well, the thing about family office is everybody in the family and the contingent group associated with the family relies on you 100%.
I know. Okay, but my little sister is literally in New Zealand on a 2-year vacation. So it's either me or no one.
New Zealand is an interesting place, I'm sure.
She looked at everything. She looked at the pressure of being from our family and she was like, I love you, goodbye. Went to New Zealand. Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, I guess we try to play best the cards that we're dealt.
Well, I also think it's important to find yourself, find your identity, find your definition, because you're happier, more self-actualized if you do the things that suit you best.
I agree with that completely. I had the opportunity to live in Europe for 5.5 years. I got my MBA. I built a software company. The software is used in 59 countries. I got to write a best-selling book before, and then finally, after I did all of that, my father was like, you know, I'm retiring in 10 years. So you have 10 years to figure out what I'm doing, or you missed the opportunity to ever figure out what I'm doing. So, but it definitely, I would agree. It's easier to focus on doing that work now. If I was expected to do this 10 years ago, it would have felt like I was suffocating. But now, having done what I wanted to do with software and books and whatnot, it's more of an obvious next step.
Excellent. Good choice.
Thank you. I love this. You keep going back to self-actualization, and not enough people prioritize that. Why?
Well, I believe that issues with health, issues with relationships, issues with employment oftentimes come from personal stress that is deemed to be underlying in all of these issues. I believe some of that comes from trying to be something that you're not, trying to appeal to people that you don't agree with, and other things as sociologically or emotionally just don't work well for human beings. You know, I'm a lawyer. I spent 15 years in law firms, and I could do it every day too, today, but I don't like that environment. I don't like that intensity. I don't like being in the office all the time. I enjoy being amongst people. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy negotiating win-win deals. And it makes me happier. And the money's not bad either.
Yeah. The current co-founder and managing partner of the fund, of our fund, it took me 2 years to find him and pick him, because it's so rare to meet people who value long-term relationship building, win-win deals, and selecting opportunities that allow you to still sleep at night.
Yes.
What are some like philosophy books that you read? We're going off script here. I'm sorry.
I won't say that I read philosophy books. I think that I read people books. I think I admire individuals, and it's not so much what they do, it's that they do it so well because it means so much to them. I was talking to a woman yesterday, and I have so much respect for her, and she is a librarian. And I said, I have so much respect for you and the work you do and the programs you present to us and the way you relate to us. It's not something that I would do because I'm not academic enough, even though I have some propensity towards academics. It's not my choice, my priority. But every day and every way, you're bringing enrichment to us through your work. Now, she's not an NBA star. She's not a football player. She's not any of those things that are so popular, but she's wonderful, and we're cherishing her at the King Library at the Society of the Four Arts.
Oh, I love their grounds, the Society of the Four Arts. It's stunning. So you have an interest in fitness and wellness that's noteworthy. How do these personal pursuits influence your professional life and overall well-being? I mean, you touched a little bit upon work-life balance.
First of all, having good choices about health and wellness help you get out of bed every morning and have fun, go places and do things. And that's what I like to do. I like to follow hashtag never stop.
Yeah.
If I hear about it, I want to go do it. And if I like it, I want to do it again. And you can't do it if you're tied to or debilitated by these bad habits. And I've just evolved into it. In my generation, we were smokers, we were alcohol drinkers, we were a lot of those things that more modern generations have come to realize are serious, painstakingly debilitating to our human body. So I don't know exactly how that happened. I guess when I was about 21 years old, I said, wait a minute, these things aren't good for me now. They're certainly not going to be good for me in the future. And you have to spend money doing it. So let's not do it.
Yeah.
And it just worked out better for me.
And that's why you look like you're 50, even though you've been in real estate for 50 years.
Well, I was recently advised by a surgeon when I had a small surgical procedure that I needed a physical. Said, you can go to your doctor. I said, well, I don't really have a doctor. Well, you can go to a doctor. I said, okay. I went to the doctor and they say, when was your last physical? And I said, I don't know. And said, what medicines do you take? I said, I don't take any. And I went through that list of criteria, and he performed a couple of tests, and he said, you're okay. He said, oh, by the way, you got a 97 on your respiratory. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, 97 out of 100 on your lungs and your respiratory. I said, well, I guess that was a good idea not to smoke cigarettes.
But you work out. Like, what do you do exercise-wise?
Well, I've always been a member of gyms. I've always liked training with weights and for stamina. When I was in Boston, Massachusetts, in my law school, they had a very, very famous Boston Marathon race, 26-mile race. And I thought at that time, I was lifting weights in the gym, and they had it on the radio. And I said, run 26 miles is impossible. how can anybody do it? Well, 10,000 people were doing it that day in Boston. So when I moved back to Florida, I joined the Palm Beach Runners. I trained, I followed the procedure step by step, and my girlfriend and I ran 4 marathons in Miami, and they were great and they were fun. And the first one we ran, you get up at 5 in the morning, you go to Miami, you run 26 miles, they give you a medal, you come back to Palm Beach, you shave and shower and dress up and go to a gala at the Science Museum, dance all night, and tell everybody that you've been to a marathon that day. Because if you live right and you follow the procedures, it works.
Oh, wow. Wow. I only did a half marathon once in Sydney, Australia. That's the closest I've got to running that far.
That's a long ways, Addie. Half a marathon is a long ways. Good job.
Thank you. I signed up to do the marathon in Paris, but I tore all 3 ligaments in my knee training for it.
Oh, wow.
I was running with my dog and I was holding her leash, and she kept seeing chickens because they have wild chickens in northern Italy. And so she kept pulling me, like yanking me at random. And apparently I had a knee injury that I didn't realize was that bad. And it just did the final tear of all 3. So very short running career.
Well, I'm sorry that happened, but also we have to be a little bit careful when we're running with our pets because they are strong. They are very strong.
I have a friend that I trade fitness data with, like to tease each other if we miss a workout. And he was like, why is your heart rate this high on a 15-minute walk? Because like there were surges. I was walking with my 80-pound Belgian Malinois, who decided that the walk should be a wrestling match and a power struggle instead of just a walk. And he was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, they're
understood.
Yeah, they're big guys. So for those who want to be mentored by you or invest with you, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it?
I would think that connecting with me on LinkedIn if they'd like, following some of my profile if they'd like, and DMing me on LinkedIn is the best, because anytime, any time zone, wherever I'm traveling, I can get those DMs and I can respond at the right time. If you try to call me on the phone or something, I might be in Europe, I might be someplace different time zone. Also, I'm not able to, I'm not willing to answer the phone spontaneously all the time, because if I'm with people discussing whether they're friends or business associates, I like to give them more respect than taking phone calls during our time together.
Absolutely. And what are these 2 pins that you're wearing?
I think one is the I'm very proud, is Palm Beach Atlantic University. This is the same pin worn by our president, Deborah Schwinn. And when I saw that, I knew that I had to achieve one as well. And the other smaller one, I'm also proud of. It's the Mensa organization.
Oh, fun. And you're on the board of the Mensa organization, or you are a member of it?
I was formerly what was known as the LOC-SEC of the Palm Beach County chapter. LOC-SEC is local secretary. And at that time, the American Mensa organization had a little bit of a emotional issue, a little bit of a psychological issue. They didn't like to call the leader a president. They thought that was too Unitarian or something. I'm not sure exactly what they thought of. Autocratic, maybe, but they call us LOC-SEC. And I led the chapter here. And it's just a group of people who qualify into the top 2 percentile of any of the IQ exams that are given internationally. And we had at that time local proctors who would administer a test for people that thought they might be interested in joining American Mensa.
Are you still active with the organization?
Oh, of course I am. I still relate to them. Some of them are so different from me and have such a different lifestyle or pursuits and activities than I do. I always learn so much. And one of my inspirational examples when I was the LOCSEC, which was a few years ago, the man was John Hillis. He was the city of West Palm Beach librarian.
Mhm.
And you say, librarian, that's another librarian that you admire. Well, I did, because this guy in those eras didn't have computers. They used the Dewey Decimal System to put the books in order and to find resources. And I
Yeah.
was a lawyer, so I know how research can be difficult.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and this guy was an amazing leader. He was a family man and chief librarian for the city of West Palm Beach. And I thought he was just a wonderful role model.
When I went to business school at IE Business School, they have an IQ test. You have to score above a certain percentage on the IQ test to get into the school. And what you have to score depends on how many people are applying from your country, because their number one priority is ethnic diversification. So if there's only one person applying from your country, it doesn't matter too much what your IQ test score is. But the year that I applied, there were so many Americans that if you were an American applying to the school, you had to score in the top 1% on the IQ test to get in. And then when I came back to the US, someone was saying that I should join Mensa, but you're the first person I've met who's a part of Mensa in real estate.
Well, I'm part of the first person you met that has my profile, because I've so much respect for the Mensa organization, because they are authors and they are lecturers and they are, very, very high academic accolade recipients and award recipients. I'm a little bit different because I'm not, it's embarrassing to say, I'm not really as academically oriented, because I have achieved 4 or 5 higher education degrees. But that's because I was interested in those topics. It's not because of an inclination that way. When I was the LOCSEC of local Palm Beach County Mensa, the prior LOCSEC had given lectures. He was an author, and he'd given lectures in his home in the old Addison Meisner district of Boca Raton. Very historic, very aristocratic, very academic, and all that. And I instituted taking groups to discotheques, because I found that especially certain of the men and women in Mensa that had been a little shy or a little bit awkward, when they got dressed up and put on their best and they went to a discotheque, they had a lot of fun. And so did I.
Oh, very neat. Very neat. So I'll look into taking that test. Maybe I can join you guys.
That'd be fun. We'd love to have you. And a lot of people don't know how well they might score because they haven't taken a test or they haven't thought about it. When I graduated from high school, I had moved a lot of high schools. My father was in the Secret Service. And then at my early teenage years, my father and mother divorced. So I had a kind of a lot of transient experiences in high school. So my grades were not high. And my advisor told me that I would probably have to take a 5th year postgraduate course in order to qualify for college. And that was until the merit scholarships came in. And because I had won a couple, she said, "You got to be all right."
When I was in high school, I would calculate what I needed to score on my tests and homework to never have to write a paper, because it would take me about 30 minutes to study what was needed for the test. I would study for 30 minutes, go and take the test, be fine. Homework could do very quickly. Writing a paper, a 5 to 10 page paper, would take like, I don't know, every single weekend for a month. And so
I'm I'm going to tell you a secret about my academic career to make you feel better about that example you gave us. I was in the master's program, International Business and Tax, at the University of Miami Law School. I was thrilled to be accepted. This was a new program at the law school, and it was kind of patterned after New York University tax program, master's program. I was in a program that kind of led me through without writing a thesis, more lecture, more practical aspects of my training. However, at about halfway through the second year, I had a big motorcycle crash, and I was not able to attend class. And my dean at that time, Rafael Benitez, what a wonderful dean, restructured my entire program so that I could graduate, but I had to write a thesis. So I was not interested, I was not inclined to writing, but I did want the degree, and I appreciated so much my dean and the other faculty members working with me. So I started writing the thesis, and I brought some work in progress to the dean. And he was very, very kind and very thoughtful. And he said, you seem to be doing a lot of work, and you're doing quite a high level of work, but it seems like it's really not easy for you. I said, oh, no, Dean, it's not. I'm not used to writing papers, and I never really like to write them. So he said, I'm going to suggest one of your colleagues, maybe you could work with him a little bit as an editor, because he's very good at these things. And I don't think you charge you too much money, and you can have a collaboration. I went to my colleague. He accepted my request. He worked with me, and he just about wore out the blue pencil, circling big paragraphs, crossing them out, and so forth and so on. The dean, as sweet and kind as he could be, didn't have the ability to tell me what he really thought of my work in progress.
Oh, no.
It was not good.
Let me show you this.
They taught me how to write better. And if you go to the University of Miami Law Library, you can find my thesis published there.
I successfully went throughout high school without writing a paper. And then most of college, except for topics that were easy, like biblical studies was pretty easy. But yeah, for like physics, those papers are really hard. So I would always do the same thing again, figure out what I had to score to get out of it. And then, irony of all ironies, I was hired to write a 400-page marketing book.
Well, we are aware of this marketing book, and we are aware of the success of the marketing book. So I think you're going to have to admit that you developed into a pretty good writer.
I have to say, the first few editions of the book were a little bit rough. They did have a 5-person editorial team that would go through and say, pull this out, explain this in more detail. And I think it's like going back to the point of Mensa, your brain thinks in like tertiary effects. Like you look at something and you're like, because this happens, obviously 21 steps later, that outcome happens. And then everyone else is like, but what happened between step 1 and 21? And you're like, my brain just calculated it. What do you mean what happened? Like you should just jump to the same conclusion as me. So with that book, they were like, no, you have to explain every single step. And I felt like I was breaking my brain and like breaking down highways and having to restructure neural networks to understand how to build and explain every single step along the way.
Well, I have found with experiences with your book and people who have worked with your book, and they say that it helped them because they didn't normally think that way. Now, I learned from Mensa, associating with others, where there are many different approaches to situations in life and in career path where you need to have some guidance because it's not the way you naturally approach things.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I didn't even think about that. But like when I look at marketing, I'm like, obviously marketing is supposed to grow revenue. And all the other marketers were like, no, it's supposed to get you brand impressions and likes and comments. They're like, no, it's supposed to get you step 21, which is revenue. Otherwise you have no marketing budget. And yeah, that's why the entire book is, this is how you manipulate neurobiology to grow revenue. But I didn't even think about that being a Mensa thing until just now. So, thank you.
Well, I learned about that in a kind of an interesting way because one of the young women at that time in our group looked at me with a very strange expression on her face, and she says, "You must be some kind of a linear thinker." I didn't know what that meant. She said, "You think A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D?" She said, "We all don't think that way."
Yeah, and trying to understand people who don't think that way is really hard. It's a learned skill. I'm still trying to learn. Like, well, obviously this is this. But anyways, well, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience?
Well, the thing that I think is so important, and I mentioned it a little earlier when we talked, is think about what's good for you. Think about what you like. Think about what rewards you. Think about how you can enrich your life and the life of others around you in a natural way. Find that identity, find that secure self, and it'll benefit you and all your loved ones.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you guys back online. Bye.